Yeah, I'm Brian Seth Hurst, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Opportunity Management Company. We're based in Los Angeles, and we do cross-platform, multi-platform strategies for the studios, broadcasters, and producers. Well, I had been invited actually to interview Jon Chu. I'm the Global Digital Ambassador for the International Emmy Awards as well, and so Jon was given the Pioneer Prize this year, so I was selected to interview him yesterday. I've been coming to MIP itself since 1998. And when I can duck in, like when I see Kevin Slavin's name, because we're friends, I always try and duck into it. But I've been actually here to do a lot of business around Conspiracy for Good, which is the Tim Kring project, which allows people to participate inside the story and make a real world difference. So that's basically, and also for me, it's a great opportunity to see people I only see once a year and to raise a glass or have a leg of lamb. Well, I think it's the state of the world today. I mean, when you talk about storytelling, because that's my focus, and you talk about the options that are available to storytellers, really there's no solid strategy yet for how you will tell a story across platforms. Just because the bell is there doesn't mean you ring it. So what I'm interested in the environment is kind of making sure in my own activist way that story always comes first. So regardless of the anchor platform that you start on, you could be starting in mobile, you could be starting on television, you could start in a game console and a video game. It's a story-centric world to me. So the story, a well-developed story, well-developed characters, a well-developed universe, and in some cases a mythology that exists before the story. These are the things that actually set you up to move a multi-platform story across those platforms. So the socialization of television and how people talk back and the idea of people creating their own part of the content, not user-generated content, but actually becoming part of the mythology themselves. There's this movement where story is moving closer to game and game is moving closer to story, and I think that connected creativity is what will you do with the tools that you now have? How will you make sure that the story actually remains the story in spite of the platforms that you will use, and how much control will you give over to your audience? We subscribe to this thing called the participation continuum. And if you're a storyteller, the more your audience participates, the less control you will have. So if it's okay, once you establish the rules of the universe, and you turn the whole universe and the story over, so fan fiction, immersion, whatnot, then you're fine. Whereas crowdsourced storytelling from the other end, where you just say, here's the story, make it up, like Mad Libs, you're not going to get a solid point of view from a storyteller. So when I look around, I'm basically here to listen. I mean, yes, I was there to interview, but I'm basically here to listen and to take in different points of view about the conversation that's going on between creators and platform holders and technologists, but also the conversation that's going on between the storyteller and the audience. Yeah, it happens. It happens. It's kind of like, oh, we need to be there, or I have this really cool idea. There are a lot of people that are out there now. It's a shame. They want to be producing for this medium, so they will go and they'll call themselves a multi-platform producer or a transmedia producer, and I guess they're using the word to show their knowledge, but there's some deep and rich education in storytelling before you even decide to go across platforms. You really have to have a solid story with compelling characters. Now, if you're creating something that's made for a specific medium, then there are aspects of that medium that you have to pay attention to. A tablet is a different thing than a 10-foot television. Maybe you want to create a complementary experience. It's a more intimate and personal experience with the tablet. So we try and watch what the audience is doing. My thing has always been go to where the audience lives. So you watch the social patterns of the audience, how they behave with each other and the content and the technology. When you get that zeitgeist going and you get the feel for what the culture is in, and it's different for every type of programming, then you can start to play. So my thing is, come to conferences like this, get your education in, really study the things that exist. There's a lot of education going on in this area, and I'm not saying that those theories aren't good, but if you study what's going on in practice, storytellers like Tim Kring and the project that we worked on, or Damon Lindelof, or the folks from Hoodlum, I mean, we've all made horrible mistakes. And you can learn from our mistakes because we've been in the trenches. We're not living in the theory, we're living in the practice. And I think that the thing that will allow you to be a great storyteller across many platforms is not being seduced by the technology, but letting the technology serve the story. But Jon is very authentic, so what you see is the progression of him using the different medium from a very organic and authentic place. He's established, there are, in my theory, there are 4 conversations possible that you can have. One is no conversation at all between the storyteller and the audience goes off on their own, they create fan sites, fan wikis, content, blah, blah. The second level is you have the conversation, you listen to the audience, you take their feedback, you engage the audience, and sometimes it influences the story, sometimes it doesn't. The third level, and that's where Jon is, and that allows him to maintain the creative control that he's comfortable with and like to maintain. The third level is when you start to open the door to participation. So that's participation drama, interactive television, alternate reality games. The fourth level of the conversation is I, as a storyteller, now trust you enough, I hand the whole thing over to you as the audience, and the story becomes yours, and you become the story. So the progression through those conversations, I think, depends on the level of expertise of the storyteller and their level of comfort. Jon's level of comfort, very organic. He knows what he wants his audience to experience, and because he knows that, he takes their feedback to give them more of that experience, which is it's wonderful. I mean, he's quite an inspiration, actually. We kind of go below the radar. We don't have a website. We haven't had one. The company's been around since 2001, and we tend to work by word of mouth. I do a lot of conferences where I see there's value in being at the conference. Like, I love to go by South by Southwest because it lets me feel from the ground up what's going on. It's more important to me to know what's going on from the ground up than the top down. You can follow me on Twitter at Brian Seth Hurst, all one word. You can send an email to info@opmanagement.com. You should probably put connected creativity in the subject line. That way I'll actually get the email and be able to read it and respond. We don't just work at the very high end, we work with the real things. Like, if we see a project and we really believe in it, we'll work to make that project happen. And we try and bring all our learnings to every project we do. So.